This is the Sewing Circle podcast presented by Hanky Code. I'm Rebecca Vanderkoy, here to introduce to you up-and-coming queer artists and the powerful stories behind their work. Today, I am so excited to have the talented filmmaker Carmela Murphy joining me. Their stop-motion animation that they collaborated on with AJ Dubler, A Bird Hit My Window, and Now I'm a Lesbian, is out now, and it's been screened at over 60 film festivals. And the duo are currently working on their next project, God is a Pelican. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is so sweet.
We're really excited to chat with you. So to kind of kick this off, I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about the process of creating A Bird Hit My Window and Now I'm a Lesbian?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was a long process. I guess starting off, A Bird Hit My Window, Now I'm a Lesbian was me and AJ's thesis film for the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. It's stop motion. So in stop motion animation, everything you see on screen was created by hand. Every movement was moved by us 24 times a second. It took about a year and a half to create, all in all. And yes, a very long process.
Yeah, I would say so. But definitely worth the effort, because I think you can absolutely tell the care and intention and the time put into it with the quality of the film.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So, how did you settle on stop motion animation as the film style that you wanted to use for your work? Because as you're mentioning, obviously it is something that's really time consuming.
Yeah, I think there's so many reasons. I started at school trying a lot of different things. I did painting and ceramics and comics and film. And when I took my first intro to film class and there was a stop motion part of that, I just totally fell in love. I just felt like it was a perfect combination of everything I loved, where it was sculpting the little faces and knitting the clothes and woodworking and shooting and editing and storytelling. So it just lit my soul on fire. Then I took we have one stop motion class at my school. It just reconfirmed everything that I knew that I loved about it. And everybody in the class too was just the most fabulous weirdos I've ever met. You know, if you're devoting your life to puppets, you have to be passionate. I'll say that.
Absolutely.
And so I think with this film, we knew we wanted to make a stop motion film. But I do think there was a lot of intention about stop motion going into the film. Stop motion has this feeling of otherness and weirdness to it, kind of creepiness in a lot of ways. I think it's hard to make stop motion seem not creepy. So we wanted to parallel this otherness of stop motion with the otherness that arises while accepting a queer identity, or this feeling of otherness in yourself. So that was important to us. I think it's also special that we're making this queer film with queer hands, and every single thing in the set has been touched by queer people for queer people. So that was special. And I think the other thing that we've been thinking about more with it as well, why we're continuing to pursue stop motion, is I think with this whole rise of AI and you're not sure what is real and what's not, I think people are craving to see handmade art. And I think we can tell the difference. So those are some of the thoughts that were going into making stop motion. Plus, it's just really awesome. And there's just such a magic of making things move. So
yeah, no, that's such a very cool thing, and just such a fascinating medium in general. And you actually kind of mentioned something that I always really like to ask people on this podcast, and that is, what does queerness in your work mean to you personally?
Oh, interesting. Queerness in my work. I think my goal as a filmmaker, and AJ's goal as well, is nuance and empathy. I think these are all very real human emotions, and sometimes they are very hyper specific to queerness. But I think people can watch a bird and feel whether or not they
Yeah.
totally connect to it or understand all of the symbolism we put in. I think it still makes your stomach turn in some ways. And so with our new film, we're making a new film about two queer middle school girls who start their own religion. I think there's this, queer kids have historically been kind of the excuse to take away queer rights, I think.
Yeah.
And this punching bag and sort of dehumanized in a lot of ways. And so we want to create a story that just shows kids being jerks and being confused and falling in love and falling out of love and confusing friendships and sort of in this space before either of them know that they're queer. So
Yeah.
yes, queerness to me is, or queerness in my work is empathy and nuance, I'd say.
That completely makes sense. And I also feel like the empathy thing is something I've been thinking about so much lately in like every sort of creative anything, because I think it's just like such an important thing, whether like someone is queer or like other in any way, or if they're just a person watching something. Like, I think it's so important to kind of like have different perspectives, and especially now when like I like open my phone and see the craziest things online, and I think like having that connection and trying to like understand someone else's perspective is like so needed. So I think that that's like a really important aspect of your work for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people don't know queer people or don't know trans people. And so they can build up all of these ideas and stories and things in their head. But yeah, we're all humans. um, and so
Absolutely.
just having that connection, I think the way to change is through conversation, uncomfortable conversation sometimes too, but seeing each other as just human beings who all really want the same thing.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, changing gears slightly, but you were mentioning, you tried other creative mediums and you kind of settled on this. Was there a part of you that always knew, like, oh, I kind of want to go into filmmaking, or was that sort of like a surprise?
I think filmmaking I always had in my soul. Animation was a surprise. I think when I was little, since I was probably 10 years old, I wanted to be a director of film. But then going into high school, a little into college, I don't know, film bros just pissed me off a little bit too much.
I
And it
get
put
it.
me
Yeah.
off a little, to be honest. So I still love the storytelling and the shooting and the editing. Um, but I never thought I was going to be an animator because I'm not really a 2D animator. That never really clicked with my soul. And so I didn't really even know stop motion was an option until I tried it. And then that just, yeah, it just opened everything up for me. And the puppet people are very lovely.
I love it. So, kind of speaking of that, like what goes into like the creation of like these characters that you're making?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so we write. We write. We design them, then redesign. For this upcoming film, we've made test puppets that we're gonna now make final puppets or maybe even second try puppets. Um, we always do storyboards and then turn that into an animatic, which is if it's a moving storyboard basically, because in animation, unlike live action where you generally shoot a lot and then you cut it back down, in animation, we can't be filming, oh, let's just add this scene and cut it later.
Right. Yeah.
That that's
It's
like
not a
2,000
thing.
hours of work. So we make
Yeah.
our animatic, build everything. We're very much into, like I said earlier, everything you see on screen we created.
Yeah.
Um, build the puppets. which requires a lot of different things as well, making molds and casting and making the clothes. Then we light the sets, we build the sets, we shoot 24 frames a second, edit, and then I guess distribute, which is its own thing in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of a brief overview.
No, that makes sense. I think it's really cool that you get to kind of touch like every aspect of the process, it sounds like. So you really get to be involved, which I'm sure is also a ton of work, but also a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's really fabulous because we both studied art. We both are artists. So the making of everything is so magical and fun. Yeah, I really love it. I think a lot of times people say, "Oh, it must take so much patience to do," and I think it's maybe not patience, but endurance. I'd say. You know, I think sitting down and doing a painting, you're sitting for hours and hours and hours in a row. With stop motion, we're on our feet, we're trying different things, where every day is a new challenge. So it's yeah, it takes a lot to do. Endurance. It's very fun and interesting.
I love that.
Yes.
So, as I was kind of mentioning earlier, A Bird Hit My Window and Now I'm a Lesbian has been screened at over 60 film festivals. And I'm wondering, is there any festival in particular that you're like really especially proud of that it got to be at?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many that we're excited to be in. Our original goal, again, this was our student film. We're like, we hope we get into one film festival. I think we got into about 10 Academy Award qualifying film festivals, which was a big deal for us. And I think the number one, or we got into Annecy, which is kind of it's the world's largest animation film festival. It was totally one of the dream festivals. And we also got into Frameline, which is the world's largest queer film festival. So we got to go from the animation festival to San Francisco. And at Frameline, we also won the Colin Higgins Youth Filmmaker Grant, which was a pretty big award that is the reason we're able to make our new film. So that's really exciting. And we got to meet so many fabulous people. And yeah, both of those film festivals were just the most amazing experience.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So obviously you're mentioning, you got this grant, you're working on this new film. Where are you at in that process right now?
Yeah, we have a script. We have test puppets. We've sort of been in business world and financing world lately. So we're still definitely in pre-production. This next film is probably going to take about 1.5 years to make, but we're excited. AJ's here, by the way. Do you want them to join, or?
They are welcome to join. The more the merrier.
Hi, I'm AJ.
Hello, I'm Rebecca.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for jumping in. Well, my next question for you guys is, and I think like Carmela, you kind of touched on this with some of the other things we've mentioned, but I am curious, like, where do you draw inspiration for your work, for your stories, for all of it?
Well, we keep accidentally making 2 films in a row that are inspired by like a random bird fact. Did you already say the bird?
No, I haven't
said the bird fact for.
Yeah, so I guess for the first film, we started with I knew there was going to be a funeral. I knew I wanted it to be queer. I was going through a time in my life where I was decentering men, so I wanted that to go through. And when I was researching, like, what animal, what's the funeral about? A real bird fact is when a bird hits a window during the daytime, it's generally a male bird that sees his reflection in the window and thinks it's a rival for his territory or his woman. And so he goes into the window to kill the other bird. So that was sort of the launching off point of, oh, okay, so what does this creature represent? It represents a man seeing something, or a man kind of like the patriarchy sort of killing itself in a way. And so for this film, it was inside the window is kind of the only place that in lesbianism is the only place where the male gaze isn't as present. I'm sure it's still present in some ways, but yeah, it's such a special thing. So that was the inspiration for that. This new film, we wanted to explore these two kids' dynamics.
Yeah, so we have, it's called God is a Pelican. And one of the inspirations for it is when a pelican's babies are starving, the mother pelican will rip out its own flesh to feed its blood to its babies, which is not true.
Yeah, which
I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a myth. It comes from like medieval times, like in Christianity. And we thought it was true because it's something Carmela's Catholic school told her growing up. And only through like researching for this film did we find out that that's not a real thing that
yeah,
happens.
they told me my whole life. I was actually, my middle school mascot was the pelican for that reason, because, you know,
wow.
like the pelican rips his flesh is like God or like Jesus. And so I wore the suit. I wore the mascot suit and went to the basketball games.
Wow.
So we didn't originally intend there to be another gay bird film, but
Yeah, it was an accident.
yeah, what we really wanted to explore was the dynamic. I mentioned a little bit, but between in a time before you know you're queer, I think there's some sort of universal queer experience of being different or being the weirdo, being the other. I know in my little Catholic school, there's 30 kids, and it was me and like 3 other kids were the losers of the grade. And you know what? We're all gay now. And I think that's
how
a pretty
it always goes.
Experience. And also, I think another queer experience is having a very intense best friendship during that time. We were like, you're my best friend in the world, and I don't want you to have any other friends but me, and why do I hate your boyfriend? And this very intense relationship that later you're like, uh-oh, that was pretty LGBT. But at the time feels very devastating. So we wanted to explore that between our two characters while they also create their own religion.
To add to the complexity of their friendship, they're starting this very complicated religion that kind of unites the weirdos at their school.
Yeah, I think I guess so the inspiration is whatever AJ and I've been just thinking about a lot. I think we think about religion and talk about that a lot as well. So I grew up Catholic, AJ grew up very religious, evangelical.
Same.
So, so I think we both have these relationships with religion that impacted us in good ways and bad ways. And I think in this time where there's sort of this big anti-queer, anti-trans movement, we think about how religion plays a role in that. But also the good things about religion. Like, why would someone stay in a religion? Maybe even ethically, you're like, I disagree with some of these things. But religion is a source of community and a mutual aid and a place where people can have their children learn values and be watched, and community and friends. And so there's all these really beautiful things about it. That we want to explore in this film, while also sort of critiquing a structure that has historically excluded and harmed queer people. And so in this film, we want it to be something that is empowering for these kids, of using it to find each other rather than something that hurts them. So that's sort of we also both love Octavia Butler, and Parable of the Sower specifically, I think has some influence on us. So, yeah.
That's all amazing stuff. I feel like also, like, especially because of the time we're in, I'm really interested to see kind of what you do with the religious aspect, because I think it's so used as a tool to, like, especially harm queer and trans people, especially kids. So kind of showing it as something like potentially something that's more of a positive thing, or more something about having like community, is a really interesting thing to kind of bring into it when like that is the time that we're existing in. So definitely I'm excited about that. And also I just like love birds. So I love that you're pulling a bird fact into everything.
I know.
I think it's great.
Originally it was a goose, but then it just had to be a pelican.
It's the only option.
Yeah, I think we want to, with this film, sort of dive into, because there's all of this sort of fear mongering in the world right now, and lies, and all these trans kids are getting surgery the day they turn 6, and all of these crazy things where it's like we want to sort of dive into the fears of conservative parents, of like radicalization and things like that, while also telling just a very empathetic and nuanced story of kids just being kids. The religion is we're gonna critique religion even in their religion, obviously. But I think it will be, we're excited to explore. I think for a lot of queer people too, they write off religion entirely. Not that I think we're both, have our own different relationships with religion, but because it is just it has harmed queer people so much. And so kind of creating a space that's entirely their own, that's rooted in magic and play and science fiction and love and community, is what we're trying to explore with this.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing. And also the other aspect that I think is like people are going to really love too is kind of that experience of like before you necessarily know that you're queer, but like you're definitely different and there's definitely things happening with like friendships and stuff, because I definitely haven't seen a ton of media kind of dive into that, but I think it's like in various versions, it's a very universal thing that queer people experience. So I think that will be a really interesting thing for you guys to be diving into as well.
Yeah, we're excited. And we've been talking to queer kids, we've been doing interviews, and we want to put a lot of heart and effort and soul into this film.
Well, I am really excited about it. Is there anything, because I know like AJ, obviously you kind of jumped in midway through, but I'm wondering, is there anything I didn't ask either of you that you wanted to mention or highlight or talk about or anything like that?
Yeah, we're working on our Kickstarter right now, which is hopefully we're going to reach our goal. We're really close.
There.
93.
93. Wow.
Yeah, so we're really
there.
close with that. We're going to be in the Denver Film Festival next week, actually. So that's sort of our film festival wrapping up. I'll be presenting A Bird and our new film at the Creative Talent Network conference in LA in the end of November as well. So,
and one thing we're really excited to be sharing, like as we go on this journey, is we're going to be sharing like all of our behind the scenes process videos on social media, which is, I think that's something that people really love to see with stop motion, especially in AI right now. Like seeing the process of something being made is very exciting. So if you
Absolutely
stop motion behind the scenes, we have plenty of that coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one thing with stop motion is in these kind of major productions or even in minor productions, there's so many NDAs and hiding of things so that at the end you really just see the product. Our philosophy is we really want to take people on the journey with us, showing them how we make everything, kind of demystifying it, but also showing how much effort and energy goes into it. So yeah, we're really excited to just connect with people and show the process. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I also I very much agree. I think like with AI kind of continuing to be on a rise, like there is such a desire to like have handmade things, to see the process of creation and like none of the AI nonsense. So I think that like that is going to be like really exciting for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Yeah, we're excited. And I think people ask us sometimes, with this rise of AI, where's stop motion going to live within all of that? But like I was saying, I think with every movement, there's a counter movement, and people want to see the handmade of it all. And stop motion is so stupid. Like it could have gone away so many times, It's so much work. It takes a long time. It's more expensive. People thought it was going to disappear in like the 2000s when CGI came about. Why would you ever do stop motion again? But I think there's just such a magic to it that people can feel in their hearts when they watch it that feels different than any type of animation, and something that AI can't really replicate.
Yeah, I
At
agree.
least
Never. Well, thank you both for joining me. I feel like you guys have so many exciting things coming up, and I'm really thrilled to see kind of how everything comes together. I really enjoyed Bird Hit My Window, and Now I'm a Lesbian, and I'm excited to see the process of creating God is a Pelican, and then, of course, once that is complete, I'm sure I will love that film just as much as A Bird Hit My Window and I'm a Lesbian.